That is so funny. Um, that is so funny. Shane Swartz boy. I can't wait. I'm so ready. How are y'all doing? You know, the thing I dislike about this TikTok is that it's like you have to um do this and do this and do and click this and click this and click the other. Um and I really don't like it. It's just too much. You know, just too much. All I want to do is do what I want to do. I don't want to spend a lot of time fooling with with an app. You see, so I don't know if my phone froze or what the hell. Hello, everybody. Okay, I'm trying to change the over here. It says advanced control. I'm trying to edit this thing. Oh, okay. I figured it out. You have to keep on like tapping this and doing this and the other thing. So, what's today's topic? Hello, everybody. Hello, 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 hello. I'm just gonna call it the Matchstick Girl deception on on TikTok for now because I don't want to spend a lot of time for foodling with this thing. I really don't. TikTok hit me with a violation because I made a comment that their promote wasn't of good value. So they hit me with a violation. Who cares? So get your drink, get your snack. I'm just trying to put a plain screen on this damn thing. That's all I'm trying to do. You know what? Imma point the TikTok thing, I'm just pointing it up to the sky because it's just too much to worry about. Hi, everybody. Remember to give the live stream a thumbs up. That lets the algorithm know to inform people that we are live and that class has started. Today we have a very interesting folk tale to analyze. And after analyzing this story, the Matchstick Girl, um, let me move this over here. Yeah. After analyzing the Matchstick Girl story, I've lined up several African variants of the Matchstick Girl story. I've matched up several variants of it. Okay. I know that when we looked at the Cinderella story, it was kind of Euro heavy. Okay, even though we saw some examples from Asia and from North America, but with let me close that window. But with the Matchstick Girl, and I was looking into it and then arranging the information and digging into the theme, arranging the theme, synthesizing the emergent themes from it. I was like, I wonder if there are versions of this thing from Africa or something similar or something along those lines we can find from African stories. And believe it or not, there's a whole bunch of stories um, from Africa that deal with the giving up of the child. And the matchstick story is really about the giving up. Y'all know that we are on a public platform, so I will have to use coded language. Hopefully, you can understand and decode the coded language. If you're unsure of any of the codes I'm using, just put it in the comment section. Either myself or your fellow classmates will decode it for you. Okay. So I would appreciate a thumbs up. The live stream that encourages me to create more content like this. Remember to like and share. Okay. Let other people know that class is in session. If you are not a subscriber, I encourage you to subscribe and put on all your notifications so that you will not miss when I come on live. Okay. I'm trying to get in a lot of material in now before I get busy again in March. I have a lot of work to do in March. So just trying to see how much material I can put out before March hits. Believe it or not, March hits in 3 days. We are already done with the second month of 2026. And it just seemed like yesterday was 2025. Do you see how fast time flies? Make sure that whatever you do, you make your time count for you. Okay? A big shout out to all those who are going through the retreat with me right now. I know it is difficult. I know it is challenging. I know I'm looking like the Wicked Witch of the West right now, but I promise you, you will eventually thank me for what you're going through now. Okay. There are others who've gone through workshops and retreats with me. They hate me and they love me at the same time. All right, so The other thing is, we had community yesterday. Thank you to all the members who showed up for the free community yesterday. We had free community. I did post the Google Meet link both on YouTube and on Patreon. So thank you to all those who showed up and participated. Okay. Oh, TikTok is giving me an AI summary. It says analyzing the Matchstick Girl folktale and its African variants. Okay. I did not know that. Okay. So based on some of the conversations we had yesterday with community, I'm putting together a grief ritual for next Wednesday. Next Wednesday at 1 p.m. CST. If you have time, I encourage you to attend the grief ritual. If you need more information on the grief ritual, send me a DM, send me an email. Okay. I also posted it on my YouTube community page. It's also posted on Patreon. Okay. And the ritual, the grief ritual we'll be doing will be full. It'll be a full ritual. So when I mean by full ritual, it's going to be a complete ritual. It's going to be closed. It will not be recorded. I don't record my rituals. They're not recorded. They're not performative. There's no recording allowed because we want to bring our authentic selves to the ritual. We want to bring our authentic selves to the altar. If you choose to attend the ritual, please make sure that your camera and your microphone are in working condition. I do not do rituals with anonymous attendees. Okay. Because if we're going to be doing it, we all need to put our skin in the game. When we do our rituals together, we're helping each other. We're helping one another. Okay. So that's why when I conduct rituals, I say your cameras and your microphones need to be working. There's no anonymous, there's no, oh, I'm getting dressed or I'm at work. If you know you're going to be at work, please do not attend the ritual. If you know you're going to be busy doing something else or you have company, don't attend the ritual. For this ritual, you will need quiet. You will need privacy. You will need time by yourself. That's what you're going to need for this ritual. It's not a lecture. When we do rituals, it's not a lecture. It's not, you're not going to be sitting back comfortably taking notes. You're going to be performing the ritual along with me because the ritual has a purpose, it has a function. There's a reason why we do the ritual. So it's not a lecture, it's not a time for back and forth, it's not a time, it's not a Q&A, it's not a debate session, it's not a time to, start saying, well, I want to express myself and have you counter argue me. No, that's not what our rituals are for. Rituals are for work. So, and I've made it very affordable. I know that my rituals and retreats tend to be pricey, but this one is very, very affordable. So again, I posted the details on my YouTube community page. You can send me a DM or an email if you need more information. I also posted it on Patreon. It's next Wednesday, 1 p.m. CST. If you need to be healed or deal with any kind of grief, any kind, it doesn't have to be someone passing. It could be any kind of grief. You're welcome to attend. You're welcome to participate. Many of us are dealing with all kinds of existential grief that has not been addressed. We haven't had the time or the space or the energy to address it. So it will be next Wednesday. Again, I've posted the information. All you're going to need is just an hour or two. This ritual is only going to take 1 or 2 hours. So you can do it during your lunch break. You can, take a pause or something. Okay. After you register, I will send you a list of what you will need to bring for the ritual. Because remember again, you will be participating in the ritual. It's not a lecture, it's not a retreat, it's not a workshop, it's not a presentation, it's not sales, it's not storytelling, it's actual work. So after you register, I will send you a list of what you need to bring for the ritual. So make sure that you sign up for the ritual on time before Wednesday so that you can fully participate. Get yourself organized. Hello, Princess Ricky Green. Come. So, like I said, send an email, send a DM if you need more information, but I did post all the information, I've already posted it. It's on Patreon and it's on my YouTube community page. Matter of fact, all the information you need for getting your seat at this ritual has been posted. But I'm just saying, for those of you who might have some challenges with reading it or understanding it, you can send me an email or a DM and I will resend you the information that I just posted. I just posted it yesterday and it's affordable. Okay. Yesterday, during the spiritual community, we performed a little bit out of that whole ritual. Some of us, yeah, who showed up for community last Wednesday, we performed a little bit out of that ritual. It is important that we have the ability and the space and the time to express and handle our grief. Very important. The tale we're going to look at today is the Matchstick Girl. And I will give you a heads up right now. As we go through this tale, you may feel emotional. That's okay. It is a tale that is meant to stir something up in you. Thanks for liking the live, Princess Rookie Green. Appreciate you. Remember to like and share the class. Okay? This story of the Matchstick Girl, some of you have heard it before, some of you have not heard it before. But the purpose of the story is to wake you up. If you are spiritually asleep, the intention of the story we're going to look at today is to wake you up because many of us are sleeping. The first time I heard the matchstick story, Matchstick Girl story, I was already an adult. I was a full-grown adult. And after listening to the story, I got very sad. I'm being very, again, I'm using coded words. You understand what I mean by very sad. Okay? Because we have to be very mindful of the platforms where we are. I got very sad. Very, very sad. Because I recognized myself in the story that I'm about to tell. And many of you will recognize yourself in the story as I tell it. So if you get emotional, that's okay. So if you get emotional, it only means that you are recognizing the truth and recognizing the fact that you need to do something about it. Because many times we just go through life as if we're anesthetized. Oh, if I ignore this thing, then it will go away. But many of us have learned that we can ignore all kinds of things, but it doesn't mean that it will go away. It's not going to go away. It won't. It needs to be faced, it needs to be addressed. Okay. So make sure you have your drink, your snack, your notebook, and your pen, and we'll get started. Fiona, we will not be having a class on Wednesday. It is not a class. I repeat, it is not a class. A grief ritual is not a class. It is not a class. I repeat, it is not a class. I do not record my rituals, so there's no recording to replay. Again, it is not a class. I repeat, in case, and I know some people are saying, why is she repeating herself? I repeat myself because, people hear different things. And I'm glad that Kiona D. Carter wrote that because it just explained to me that maybe people didn't understand. Rituals I conduct, I don't know about other people. But if you ask people who have attended rituals with me, the rituals I conduct are not classes. It is not a class. You will not be taking notes. You will be participating. Okay. But it's good you mentioned it because I know there's some people, how like sometimes you say something, but people hear you. They listen, but they hear something else. So it's good you mentioned it because I need to repeat that so that people get it. Because there's sometimes people they will say, but I heard. No, you were listening, but you heard something else. Again, for those, okay, Princess Rookie Green is writing on TikTok, rituals are not meant to be recorded anyways. Thank you. I know there are people out here who record their rituals and post it. I'm not into performative spirituality. Ask all those who have been following me for years. I don't perform my spirituality. I don't. It's not a class. Okay. All right. So let's get into it. So, The Matchstick Girl by Hans Christian Andersen. Okay. It was published in 1845 in Denmark. Thank you. It was a literary creation by Hans Christian Andersen, and it was inspired by 19th century poverty in Copenhagen, in Denmark. and also Hans Christian's own childhood deprivation. That is what inspired the story of the Matchstick Girl. Okay. The Matchstick Girl is a created story. But what I did was when I started doing the research, it wasn't categorized. So I had to do some research in that space to find stories with the same theme, thematic, with the same thematic contextualization. Okay. All right. So this was a story inspired by poverty. If you ever grew up in poverty, you will identify with this story. If you've ever experienced poverty, you will identify with this story. Please remember to like and share the class. Okay. So it was freezing cold, snowing, and getting dark on the last evening of the year, New Year's Eve. In this cold and darkness, a poor little girl wandered the streets, bareheaded and barefoot. If you have ever experienced ice and snow, you know that this is not a good thing. Even as an adult, to be walking barefoot in the snow and ice and nothing covering your head. 70% of your body heat is lost through your head during cold weather. And I'm saying this especially for those of you who don't know and those of you who live in tropical climes, okay, who don't have to deal with snow and ice, okay? And to the folks, a shout out to the folks on the East Coast who are going through it right now. Okay? So here we have this little girl. She's walking through ice and snow with no shoes. That's a sign of poverty, abject poverty. She had been wearing slippers when she left home, but they were far too large for her and were lost as she hurried across the street to escape two fast moving carriages. Metaphysically speaking, what does it mean when a child is wearing oversized slippers? Anyone? Because we're going to analyze the story. I want us to analyze the story together and work on the story together. Anyone? What does it mean in a metaphysical or metaphorical sense that a child is wearing oversized footwear, oversized shoes, oversized slippers? What do you think it means? Okay, sweet mommy. Yes, you're close. Very close. Sweet mommy says having to do the work of an adult. If a child is wearing oversized slippers or oversized shoes, it's not just having to do the work of an adult, it also represents being an adult. The child has to be an adult in every ramification. So, not just the work, but responsibilities, the emotions, the burdens. She has to become an adult. So, here we have a child, and we're being told early in the story that her life as a child. She was required to be the adult. But she couldn't cope. That's why she lost them. Because when she avoided two fast moving carriages, she couldn't cope. She couldn't cope. So she was trying to avoid the fast carriages. She lost the shoes. So she couldn't cope. She was a child. And there are many of us who identify with that. We were forced from childhood to become the adult. We had to listen to stories and live experiences that were meant for adults. Okay? She carried a bundle of matches in her apron and held one packet in her hand. It had been a miserable day. No one had bought any matches from her, and she hadn't earned a single penny. Shivering with cold and hunger, she moved along, a picture of misery. So she has these matches in her hands, and she's creeping along. I thought I had some matches here. She's creeping along. Last day of the year. Small child, no shoes, no hat, in the snow, trying to sell matches. Matches. That's why she was called the Matchstick Girl. Thank you so much, Rookie369, for the likes. I appreciate you. The lights shone from every window, and the savory smell of roast goose filled the street, reminding her that it was New Year's Eve. She found a small corner where two houses met and huddled down, drawing her little legs up under her. She was freezing, but she didn't dare go home. She had sold no matches and earned no money, and she knew her father would thrash her. Besides, it was almost as cold at home with only a roof full of holes to cover them. Do you now see we have more context as to why this child had to act like an adult? Her father was at home, but he sent her out in the cold with no covering to go and sell matches. And if she did not sell those matches and make money, he would punish her. So this is a child assuming adulthood under duress. And many of us can identify with that. Remember, I told my own story one time when I was being called the P, but I was being called the P, but I had to bring food home. I had to bring food home. So same thing. So do you understand why I identified and I was emotional about this story? And there are many women today, there are men too, but there are many women today being maligned, being called names, being humiliated, but still expected to be the provider for the family, be the provider for others. And if you don't provide, you'll be punished. Meanwhile, the person who's supposed to be providing is at home, and you are out there providing. and you're out there on the streets, you're afraid of being punished, you're afraid of being humiliated, you're afraid of being shamed, you're afraid of being all these things happening to you, and you're out there on the streets trying to make money to take care of the person who is at home, who is supposed to be out there taking care of you, even though you are weaker, smaller, younger, less experienced than the one who's sitting at home. Her little hands were nearly numb with cold. Finally, she decided to strike just one match against the wall to warm her fingers. Scratch! How it spluttered and burned. It was a warm, bright flame like a small candle. As she cupped her hands over it, she felt as if she was sitting before a large iron stove with polished brass feet and ornaments. The fire burned wonderfully, but just as she stretched out her feet to warm them, the flame went out, the stove vanished, and she was left sitting in the cold with the burnt match in her hand. Can anybody identify what just happened here? She's freezing. She's sitting in a dark corner. She has to sell these matches. Her fingers are going numb. She decides to strike one of her matches just to warm her fingers. And then she started seeing this, a warm stove, started feeling the warmth of a stove. And she's like, oh, let me stretch my feet towards it and get warmer. And that match she had lit up went out. And she was left sitting in the cold with the burnt match in her hand. Can anyone tell me what this means? What does this mean to you? Before we go on. Okay, Kiona said mirage is a real thing. Mirage is a real thing. What else? Michi M, she has no hope. Okay, what else? Something was happening to her when she struck that match. Remember, she's supposed to sell it, but she was so cold. Her fingers were so cold. What was happening to her? Anyone? What was happening to her? Audra 008. Personally, imagining a better situation only to come back to reality. So, Audra, what is that called? Because you hit the nail on the head. What is that called? When you're personally imagining a better situation only to come back to reality, what is that called? Because you just hit the nail on the head. Daydreaming, wake up call. What is it called? When someone is imagining a better situation only to come back to reality, what is it called? TikTok folks, any idea? Because this is important. You need to get this. What is it called? Anyone? You're imagining something, and then you're brought back to reality. Audra, escapism. What's another word for escapism? Fantasy. Fantasy. It's called a fantasy. She started fantasizing. It is not uncommon for people who are in extreme poverty to fantasize. It is not uncommon for people who are experiencing trauma as a result of poverty and abuse to fantasize. This was a child who was being forced to become an adult, and she couldn't cope. She couldn't cope with being an adult. She didn't know how to be an adult. And there was already an adult in this situation. So, what her mind started doing was her mind started taking her into fantasy as a survival tactic, not daydreaming. Because if you're daydreaming, okay, I'm daydreaming. This is something I'm hoping for. This is how I would like it to be. But fantasy, when someone is in fantasy, it's like there's no control. When someone is in fantasy, the person is escaping reality. That's why what Audra said was very significant. Fantasy means you are escaping reality. I'm going to let my mind wander and escape the reality in which I find myself. And there are so many of us who, instead of being able, and maybe we're not able because the Matchstick Girl was not able to control her circumstance, but there are some of us who, even as adults, we remain in fantasy because that's how we can survive without going mad, without going crazy. We have to fantasize. So we fantasize about the life, we fantasize about the food, we fantasize about the relationship. Even though the relationship is whacked, but I'm going to fantasize about the relationship. Oh, yes, I'm getting back rubs and champagne and chocolate. I'm getting foot rubs. And we're fantasizing about whatever it is. Oh, I have this disease, but I'm going to sit here and fantasize that I'm perfect, I'm healthy, I have a wonderful physique. I can go running, jumping, skiing, playing tennis, playing pickleball, and it's only up in here. Fantasy, fantasizing about that which cannot daydream. With daydreaming, you can. With the it both of them are kinds of imagination, but with fantasy is just like when someone is in a fantasy world, is a make believe world. an improbable world. A daydream. I can daydream about my goals. I can daydream about what I want to achieve. But to fantasize is just like, when they have jokes about people fantasizing about their ideal partner and they themselves are not the ideal partner. So now she is sinking into fantasy. She struck her match. Remember, she's supposed to sell the matches. Now she is using her resources, the very thing she's supposed to use to bring money. She is now expending it in order to remain alive. The very thing that is supposed to bring her resources, she has to expend it in order to remain alive. Her survival. Okay. So there are a number of things happening. Her mind descends into fantasy and she's consuming her resources in order to stay alive. She struck a second match. There's a reason why I'm slowing down and breaking it down here, because when we start going through the rest of the story, you need to start connecting the dots. Thank you for liking the live, Rookie369. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. She struck a second match. It burned brightly, and where the light fell on the wall, the bricks became transparent as glass. She could see right through into a dining room where a table was spread with snowy white cloth and fine porcelain. The centerpiece was a magnificent roast goose stuffed with apples and dried plums. Suddenly, the goose hopped down from the dish and waddled across the floor straight toward her. But then the match went out, and there was nothing but the thick, cold wall. She's hungry. She was hungry. And she started fantasizing, because back in that day, one of the richest foods you could have was roast goose. As what it was considered to be one of the richest foods you could have. So she's fantasizing. A child of desperate poverty. There was no way she was ever going to lay her hands on any kind of roast goose. No way. That's why it was a fantasy. He lit a third match. Instantly, she found herself sitting under the most beautiful Christmas tree. It was larger and more beautifully decorated than anything she had ever seen. Thousands of candles burned on its green branches. Remember, back in the day, they didn't have electricity. So, and there's some churches, and I think in Europe, that still light up Christmas trees the old way. They will literally put candles on the tree. Okay, so how they manage that from becoming a conflagration, I don't know. But that's how they used to light Christmas trees back then when there was no electricity. You would literally stick candles on the branches of the tree. So thousands of candles burned on its green branches, and colorful pictures looked down on her. The little girl reached out her hands. So she's reaching out her hands to touch this tree, and the match went out. The Christmas candles rose higher and higher until they turned into bright stars in the sky. One of them fell, leaving a long trail of fire. Someone is dying, the little girl murmured. Her grandmother, The only person who had ever loved her, the only person who had ever loved her. So that adds another texture to the story. Because remember, if she didn't sell those matches, okay, if she didn't sell those matches, her dad would thrash her. So that already tells us right there, she was living in a house devoid of love. Okay? She was living in a house devoid of love. And now she's now recalling the one who truly loved her, the only one who ever loved her, her grandmother. We have no story here as to what happened to her mother, whether her mother was alive or not. Her grandmother, the only person who had ever loved her and who was now dead, had once told her that when a star falls, a soul goes up to God. She struck another match against the wall. That's the girl. Because now she wants to remain in this fantasy. No one's buying matches from her. There and this is an abbreviated form of the story, because when you go to the actual story, the full-fledged story says she was in the darkness of those houses and she was calling out to people passing on the streets, buy a match, buy a match, buy a match, buy a match. And people were walking past her. They were ignoring her. They weren't even listening to her. She was there. So imagine a little girl, no shoes, no hat, in the snow, in the ice. This was back then, there were no cars. People would ride horses or walk, or they'll be in their buggies if they were rich, pulled by horses. And she's there with her little voice saying, buy my matches. I have matches for sale. Buy my matches. And with all that noise, who was going to hear her? Who was even going to look down and see her down there trying to sell matches? And she kept on crying out, buy my matches, buy my matches. And nobody was buying the matches. Nobody. People were hurrying home because they wanted to hurry home to go eat their dinner. Remember, this was New Year's Eve. So people were rushing home. Everybody was rushing home so they could go home and settle down, clean up, and have their warm dinner. She had no dinner. She wasn't going to get any kind of dinner if she didn't sell the matches. And nobody was buying the matches. And she could not go home because she knew what would happen to her if she went home and met her father with no money, her own father. Okay. And she's out there and she's saying, well, my home is just as cold as the streets, because in their home, they had a roof with holes in it. So they had no heat in the home anyway. So she struck another match against the wall in its bright light. She saw her grandmother looking clear, shining, mild, and full of love. Grandmother, cried the little girl, take me with you. I know you will disappear when the match goes out, just like the warm stove, the delicious roast goose, and the beautiful Christmas tree. This was her giving up. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this was her finally giving up. I can't cope. I can't meet the expectations. I am just a child being asked to be an adult. I don't know how to be an adult. I don't know how to make money. I don't know how to keep myself existing. I don't know how to maintain myself. Grandma, take me. This is the same as when people say, God, take me. That's it. I'm at the end of my rope. There's nothing else I can do. I have given up. I have surrendered. That's it. This world is not my home. Desperate to keep her grandmother there again in her fantasy, she quickly struck the rest of the matches in the bundle. The matches burned with such a brilliant light that it was brighter than the midday sun in her fantasy. Never had her grandmother looked so tall and beautiful. Thank you so much, Rookie369. Okay, a lot of us still walk around with these childhoods. Yeah, you're right. Never had her grandmother looked so beautiful. She took the little girl in her arms, and together they flew up in brightness and joy, higher and higher, to a place where there was no longer any cold or hunger or pain. Can anyone tell me what happened here? Can anyone tell me what happened here? She was the rest. Remember, she had a bundle of exactly Princess Rookie Green. That's exactly. Michi M. Correct. She kept on using up all the matches, all her resources until that's it. But in the cold dawn of the next morning, the little girl was found huddled in the corner between the two houses. She had rosy cheeks and a gentle smile on her face, on her lips, but she had frozen into out of existence on the last night of the old year. The New Year's sun rose up upon her little body, surrounded by the scattered burnt matches. She was trying to keep warm, the people said. No one knew the beautiful visions she had seen or in what glory she had entered the new year with her grandmother. Okay, Ruki says she passed knowing that she was with her grandma, the one person who loves her. But what's the moral of the story? What is the message of the story? We learn from the story that fantasy is a coping mechanism. Whenever people come to me in consultation and they're saying certain things that are based in fantasy, I quickly recognize that they're dealing with trauma, they're dealing with issues, and this is the fantasy is how they cope with their reality. People will fantasize because that's how they cope with reality. Oh, I'm going to go on Amazon. I'm going to buy all these outfits. I'm going to buy all this makeup. I'm going to buy all these beauty products. I'm going to buy all these jewelry. I'm going to buy all this perfume, and he will love me. That's a fantasy. Things are missing from around the house. I don't know why they're missing. One day, I am going to get over this thing that has me in a chokehold of addiction, and everything is going to be all right. I don't know why things are missing around me. I don't know why everywhere I go, there's drama. Everywhere I go, the po are after me, security is after me, people chasing me around. But I know that I'm right. I'm seeing things that other people don't see. And the reason why I'm seeing these things is because I'm spiritual and these other people are not spiritual. That's fantasy. Mental illness, too, but fantasy. Oh, I'm too big, too high, too royal, too spiritual to have a job. I am a divine being, and people need to come and pay me tribute. I'm all that. People are not recognizing my royalty. People are not recognizing my divinity. People around me need to care for me, feed me, meet my needs. I'm a blessing to them. I don't have to do anything. That's a fantasy. And we can start going down the line and start listing different kinds of fantasy. Oh, I'm highly educated. I have all kinds of diplomas and certificates and whatnot. People don't understand me. They're a lower intellectual level. Well, why are you having all this drama around you? Because people are jealous of me. They're envious of me. They want what I have. They want what I am. They can't be like me. But you're suffering. Can't meet up. Oh, I don't need to do anything in my household. I don't need to take care of my children. Jesus is more important. Being in the church is more important than cleaning the house, earning a living, cooking food, taking care of my family. Jesus is the most important thing. If I face Jesus and handle Jesus and worship Jesus and sacrifice everything I have for Jesus, everything in my home or on my job or in my relationship will be okay. The priority is Jesus. The priority is my religion. If I do everything in this religion and do it right, then I don't have to do anything else. That's fantasy. You know, I'm now, I have an Orisha. I am crowned by my Orisha. I don't need to deal with the mundane things, and The reason why I've been fired from 17 jobs is because of my Orisha. My Orisha knows I'm not supposed to be in that job. My Lua knows I'm not supposed to be there. My spirit guides know that that job is not for me. Yeah, even though it was 17 jobs I got fired from, but people are not recognizing. They are afraid of my Orisha. They're afraid of my Lua. They feel my power, and I don't need to do anything. They're the ones who need to adjust fantasy. And that fantasy is a coping mechanism, because basically what the person is saying is that if I, okay, so basically, they were saying, if I continue with facing my reality, I might go insane. I might go crazy. I might lose my mind. I am not where I'm supposed to be. I don't have what I'm supposed to have. I am not who I'm supposed to be. And my mind can't deal with it. Therefore, I am going to indulge in my fantasy. It's safer for me there. And we don't realize that society doesn't care. Other people don't care. Why? Because they are coping with their own lives. Every other person has their own fantasy that they're dealing with, that they're coping with, that they're managing. So people are not going to leave their own fantasy to come and help you out of yours because they have theirs. The little matchstick girl is saying, help me. I've got matches. I'm selling matches. Buy my matches. But she's in survival mode. But because she's in survival mode, she cannot think creatively. She cannot look and see her environment and say, okay, maybe this is not the best place for me to stand to sell these matches. Maybe I should be somewhere else selling these matches. She's in survival mode. She's hungry and she's cold. If you have ever experienced snow and cold, remember how it feels when you're out in the snow, ice, and cold. All you're thinking of is, how do I get out of this? You're not there trying to optimize for nothing. You're not trying to be creative. You're not trying to be inspirational or motivational. All you are thinking when you are in snow is, how the hell do I get out of this? If you've never experienced snow, it might be kind of hard to understand. But imagine that somebody put you in a freezer. You're not going to be there saying, well, let me see how creative I can be. Let me see what motivational stories I can come up with. Let me see how bright and intelligent I can be. Your mind is like, get me the heck out of here. Okay. The sad part of this story is that when this story was being told, it can reinforce the martyr complex, victimhood complex, because the person's like, oh, okay, I'm just going to keep on suffering and God will come and rescue me, or my ancestors will come and rescue me, and my spirit guides are going to rescue me and take me out of this valley of shadow and sin. And in that regard, this can be a very disabling story. It can be a very disabling story because you're listening to this and you're saying to yourself, so there was no hope of rescue for this child. Okay? If you have somebody who knows how to disassociate under stress and they're listening to the story, they may be saying to themselves, okay, so that's the solution. My problems, just disassociate and go into fantasy. Okay? I don't need to look for solutions. There's no hope. If this girl didn't make it, if she couldn't make it, how am I going to make it myself? Okay? It also teaches passive endurance. What will be, will be. And there are many people who are like that. They're like, it's out of my hands. There's nothing I can do. I'm the victim here. I'm the one who's being oppressed here. There's nothing I can do. I'm just going to stay here. And when it's time for the Lord to call me home, I would I'll be called home. And sometimes you will hear this story when people try to make it sound a little bit more palatable. And they will say, oh, it's a sad Christmas story. Or they will try to emphasize, oh, well, at least by the end of the story, she was in a better place. Have you ever been in a difficult situation due to poverty, due to deprivation, and somebody says to you, it's God's will? How does that make you feel? How does that make you feel? Someone says to you, oh, it must be God's will. Just accept it. They're not offering solutions. They're not offering helpful suggestions. They just come to you and tell you, oh, it must be God's will. Address says, feels like absolute shit. You know that's right. It does. They're not helping you. They're not lifting you up. They're just telling you, oh, it's God's will. I remember many, many, many years ago, many years ago, it's over 30 years ago, I had credit card that I couldn't pay due to my circumstances. I had lost my job. And on the radio, there were these people saying, oh, they are Christians who will pray with you. It was a prayer line. I used to call prayer lines a lot. Prayer lines used to be my thing back in the day. And I remember trying to call, trying to discuss my situation with someone on the prayer line. And I said, hey, I have this debt. I'm thinking of declaring bankruptcy. I just feel so overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. And the person on the phone said, if you declare bankruptcy, that's a sin. If you declare bankruptcy, that's a sin. That's what the person told me. You must find a way to pay off that debt, even if you have to go without. Because the credit card company that gave you that money gave it to you with the belief that you're going to pay it back. And you must pay it back, even if you have to go without, even if it means you have to reduce the amount of food you eat. That is the Christian thing to do. That was about the last time I ever called a Christian prayer line. Because as far as I was concerned, that was one of the most useless things ever to be invented. I just told you I'm out of work. I just told you I am barely holding on. And you're telling me I must find a job to service my credit card debts, even if I have to deprive myself. We could go into would she have given that advice if I were of a different color or background or culture or whatever? Who knows? We could argue that. But when somebody is in a place of hunger, poverty, deprivation, no hope, survival, the resources that are supposed to be generating more resources for them are being consumed to keep them alive. You, as the person going through, you, as the person who is going through this, need to get to a point where you stop listening to everybody. You cannot afford to listen to everybody. You cannot afford to listen to people who are not actively solving your problem. You can't. You cannot. It doesn't matter how they tell you how well meaning they are, and how many Bible verses they quote, and how many surahs from the Quran they've quote, or whatever thing they tell you that, oh, the Orisha said I should tell you, or the person is like spiritual. If what they are saying or doing is not helping you get out of your situation, you need to cut them off. If I, myself, Dr. Tochi, you come to me, you are in survival mode. Survival mode. You don't know where you're gonna find your next meal. You don't know where you're gonna lay your head. You're not secure. You have no clothes on your back, and you come to me and say, "This is my circumstance," and I say to you, "Oh no, you need to um, sign up for one of my retreats. It's a 7-day retreat, and it doesn't matter, just find a way to scrounge around and get the money, sign up for my retreat. You're going to learn things that will help you. I authorize you to dog me online anywhere you see me. I give you my blessing. You can dog me anywhere you see me. Dog me. Say to me whatever you want to say to me. You came to me and told me very clearly, I am at my rope's end. I have no job, nowhere to live, no food to eat, no security. I'm out here on the streets, I'm naked. And I say to you, buy a retreat, pay for this, and okay, why not buy a protection or amulet or the you can dog me. And I say this with 100% confidence because I know, and I've told the story here of that happening to me. Do some of you remember the story I told about being out of work and having no food in my fridge? And I called a young lady who used to be my friend. She was a nurse. And I told her I had no food. And she kept me on the phone for 2 hours asking me, how did you get in this situation? And I told her, I'm behind on my rent. I have no food in my fridge. My fridge is empty. I'm behind on my light, my water, my everything. I have nothing to eat. She kept me for 2 hours on the phone. And after the 2 hours, she said, okay, let me call you back. I can't do anything right now, but let me call you back. She was a nurse, a working nurse with a fiance. Ladies and gentlemen, that day was the day I cut her off. I've told the story in some other live stream. You can maybe when you come across my live streams, you come across the story. I had to cut her off. To preserve myself, I had to cut her off. 2 months later, she sent me a text message. Oh, I'm going to be inducted into this organization and I want you to be one of my supporting friends. And we're going to wear this outfit and we're going to do this and do this and do that. You're going to need about 200 or is it 200 or $300. She never called me back to find out, did you ever get something to eat? That was so painful to me. But you could send me a text message 2, 3 months later telling me it would only cost $200 or $300 to be part of your party, to wear the same outfit so you can get inducted into this organization. This is the reason why I say to you, if somebody is not for you, you can cut them off. No apologies. Because they will not get better. And some of us indulge in this fantasy where we're like, if I keep on showing kindness to this person, they will change. They will do better. They will do right by me. And it's not about to happen. The matchstick girl kept saying, buy my matches. No, people were going about their lives. Oh, like, I need to get home on time, go have my dinner, go be with my family and friends. Nobody looked down and recognized a badly clothed, a child who was not dressed for the weather out on the streets, hungry. Nobody. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is real life. People will be busy about their business while you are saying, I am hungry. And any of you who's listening to this class, part of this class, who is still indulging in fantasy, you need to stop. You need to stop. You need to stop. Put stop in the comment section in your own language. What is stop in your language? Arrête. En français, c'est arrête. In English, stop. Put it in the comment section. What is stop in your language? What is stop in German? I forgot. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, why am I doing this in all caps? Stop! Where's German? I'm looking for German. Oh, German is called Dutch. I forgot. Dutch. I can't even find it. Dutch. Okay. It's not showing me that. I'm trying to find out stop in German. Okay, Stephanie put it. Aufhören? Okay. Please put stop in the comment section. If you have a different language, put it in the different language. Let us all learn languages today. What is stop in your language? What is stop? Duro. Pussy. I want to see in Haiti. Creole. Sispan. Sispan. What is stop in your language? What is stop in your language? Stop. Pussy. Mrs. Allen, what is stop in patois? Jamaican patois. Is it just stop? I don't want to say Baba Clot. What is stop in your language? In your vernacular, what is stop? I'm not asking for a translation. Joy Amoya, I'm not asking for a translation. I didn't ask for the meaning of stop. What is it in your language? Because sometimes when you're saying stop, people just think, okay, maybe you're talking. So I'm trying to get it in different languages so that people can understand what we're saying. If someone is not supporting your survival, you need to wake up. They will not support your survival. You need to come to terms with that reality and stop fantasizing that if you are kinder to them, they will change. Okay. Sweet Mommy is giving us pigeon English. Stop them. What a stop. Okay. Amoya, I see you're still living in your fantasy out there. I said, what is it in your language? And you're there writing, wake up. What is stop in other languages? Okay, I have somebody else writing kusi, so that's Igbo. We can see here that nobody came to rescue the little matchstick girl. No one came to rescue her. Even her fantasizing about her grandmother coming to take her, that she went into that as a fantasy. And it might very well be that as her spirit began to leave her body, her grandmother, as one of her ancestors, came to help her along. Because the grandmother is like, there is no way this child is going to make it. And the child has already given up because remember in the story, we're told that the little matchstick girl said, Grandma, take me with you. Take me with you. Okay. There are some people who will use this story the way that they use Bible stories and Quranic stories. They will twist it around to mean something else. There are some people who are going to say, oh, God prefers taking the innocent. Some people will say, oh, the meaning of the story is that God takes the innocent, God takes the little ones, God takes the hungry ones, or that the world is such an irredeemable place. Some people will try to use this story to tell you that if you are poor, your poverty will spiritually elevate you the more you suffer. And this is the story that a lot of our churches and masjids and synagogues and temples and stuff is feeding us. If you're poor and you don't have access to resources, you are suffering. It is the suffering that you experience through that poverty that is going to bring you closer to God. So then they support the martyrdom complex. How many times have you heard that in conversation? Oh, the poor people are the ones closest to God. But everybody wants to be close to God. But people will tell you, oh, it's the poor people who are closest to God. A rich person is very far from God. If a rich person is very far from God, why are so many of us still trying, fighting to be rich? Why are we trying to be rich? Ah, okay. So here's some questions I want to ask you. Have you ever endured something silently while other people celebrated and excluded you from their celebration? Have you ever just endured? Have you ever been in a situation where you were hungry and you're watching other people eat and they didn't offer you any of that food? Have you ever? How did it feel? Have you ever used fantasy to escape or survive emotional neglect? Okay, my mother doesn't love me. I'm just going to sit over here in the corner and fantasize. My father doesn't love me. I'm just going to sit over here in the corner and fantasize. My siblings don't love me. I'm going to think about those days when we were younger and we used to play together. Many people do that because in your current reality, you cannot understand and you cannot accept that your mother or your father or your brother or your sister or your cousin or even your own child is not nice to you. You can't understand, you can't accept that your spouse, your girlfriend, your fiance, your boyfriend is not nice to you. So it's a lot safer to fantasize and go back into memories. And it doesn't matter, I will reconstruct the memory in the way that feels comfortable to me. I'm going to sit here and remember the days that we used to go and fetch water together, and we used to play soccer together, and we used to eat together, and when we used to go to school together. And you find yourself spending a lot of time going over that. You need to wake up and realize what is happening to you. I have a younger cousin. And he's very good at this. Whenever you hang out with him, he's always talking about the past. Oh, do you remember when we were in college you did this? Do you remember when you're in high school? Do you remember when you did this? And do you remember when I did this? Do you remember the story of what this person did? Do you remember that time this person did this? And that's all he talks about. He never talks about the present and he never talks about the future. Never. Whenever you sit with them, it's always about, do you remember? Do you remember? Do you remember? That's trauma. And many of us never recognized it for what it was, that it was trauma. That was his trauma speaking. His inability to remain in the present or to foresee the future and be comfortable with the future was his coping mechanism because he was looking at his life and saying, this is not where I thought I was going to be. This is not how I thought I was going to be. Always talking about the past. Oh, do you remember when my father told you this? Do you remember when my mom took us? Do you remember when auntie did this? Do you remember when uncle did this? Do you remember when Charles did this other thing? Do you remember when Mary did the other thing? Do you remember that time I came to your house? Do you remember? 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 Do you That's all his conversation. When you try to bring it to the present or the future, he gets uncomfortable. He would reach out for another bottle of beer. He would get up and walk away and say, "Oh, I need to go to the bathroom," or, "Oh, I need to go run an errand." It was so uncomfortable for him. That's a coping mechanism. Here's another big question. Do you spiritualize your suffering instead of demanding change? Ooh. Do you spiritualize your suffering? Many of us spiritualize our suffering because we want our suffering to have meaning. Did you know that you could suffer in such a way that your suffering has no meaning? Did you know that? Did you know that? Did you know that that suffering that you're undergoing will be meaningless? And many of us want our suffering to have meaning. We don't want our suffering to be in vain. Do you spiritualize your suffering? God is going to reward me for all these things that are happening to me. I'm going to get good karma for enduring all of this. God is seeing me. Or one of my favorites, God is watching. God is seeing everything. Okay. And one of my friends who loves using that expression, God is watching, God is watching, God is seeing everything. I said to him, okay, and then what? And he didn't have an answer because he was so used to saying, God is watching, God is seeing, God is watching, and God is seeing everything. I said, okay, there's a lot of drama going on in your country, and the governance in your country is poor, and you say God is watching. Oh, God is watching all those politicians. And then, so okay, God is watching the politicians, and then what? How does that help you? And usually they have no answer for that. Yeah, that's another one. And God wouldn't give me more than I can bear. And already it's more than you can bear. Many of us would rather spiritualize our suffering instead of demanding a change. Oh, God will do something. Jesus will rescue me. Paradise is waiting for me, but you're suffering here. There's this church I found. I was researching something else and I found this church, and it's called Universal Hager Spiritual Church Association. And I never heard of them before. There was something else I was looking for and I came across this church. But do you know I love their tenet. One of their tenets is let me pull up the church again. I want to read it for you verbatim. When I read it the other day, I laughed so hard. I think it's under their vision. Uh-huh. Okay. Look at their tenet. They have their own 10 commandments. This is a real church in the United States. Thou shalt believe in spirit, that is God within matter. Thou shalt ignore a sky, heaven for happiness, and a downward hell for human punishment. Thou shalt ignore a sky, heaven for happiness, and a downward hell for human punishment. Thou shalt believe in heaven and hell here on earth. This is part of their 10 commandments, and you can look it up yourself. Thou shalt believe in the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man. Thou shalt believe in what you sow, you shall also reap. Thou shalt believe that the Ethiopians and all nations will rule the world in righteousness. I'm just reading their list, okay? Here's the other one of interest to me. Thou shalt not pray for God to bless your enemies. When I saw this one, I was so tickled pink. And it was a shame that despite the time I was in Michigan, I never heard of these people. It's in their 10 commandments. Thou shalt not pray to God to bless your enemies. Thou shalt ask God to give you power to overcome them. This is in their 10 commandments. I'm not going to pray to God to bless my enemy. That is spiritualizing your suffering. That is spiritualizing your suffering. And this church is saying, instead, you will ask God to give you power to overcome your enemies. This church is called Universal Hager Spiritual Church Association. You can look them up online for yourself. Thou shalt believe that our relatives and friends whose spirit have departed from their bodies are within our own bodies to help us overcome all difficulties in life. That is ancestors. That's a kind. If I had to go to church, is this kind of church I would like to go attend? Some of us here are experts at praying that God should bless our enemies. I was listening to somebody who says, "Oh yeah, don't pray for your enemies to pass. Pray for them to live long so that they will see what you become. They will live long to see you become successful." What if you don't become successful? What if you don't become successful? So if you are not praying, if you are praying that your enemy should live long so that they will see become successful. What happens if you don't become successful? Well, guess what? You just prayed for them to live long, so they're going to live long and laugh at you. They're going to rejoice. They're going to be like, "Uh-huh, thank God I was kept long alive, long. Thank God I was kept alive long enough to see you suffer." because there's an assumption here that everybody will succeed. Not everybody will succeed in life, at least not succeed the way that we think success looks. Not everybody. Not everybody's going to build a big house. Not everybody's going to be a millionaire. Not everybody is going to be fabulous and famous, and not everybody. So, what happens to your enemies if you don't achieve all those big things that you think is going to shame them? You are the one who's going to end up being ashamed. Okay. Here's another question I want to ask for us to consider before we end the class. Are you the freezing child? Are you the matchstick girl? Are you the one who's out there taking care of people who can take care of themselves? Are you the one who's out there caring for people who don't care about you? Are you the one who's worshiping people who don't celebrate you? Are you the one who's supporting those who don't want you here? They don't want you to exist, but you are spending all your resources to make sure that they exist, that they are doing well, but they themselves do not want you to live. They don't want you to exist. They don't want you to be here. Are you that person? Are you hoping that somebody somewhere is going to praise you for your suffering? Someone's going to praise you for your pain and suffering. So you see why I said that the Matchstick Girl story is a difficult one, because the Matchstick Girl story is a mirror. It's a mirror. And it's a very difficult mirror to look into. But it's a mirror nonetheless. It's a mirror. And God knows I have been guilty myself, especially trying to please people who didn't care anything about pleasing me. And I would use my resources, my last resources, to make them happy. And they didn't care whether I lived or didn't live. They didn't care. I'm not a matchstick girl anymore. And I suggest that you too stop being a matchstick girl. And when I say that, stop being a matchstick boy. Because I know there are some men here who are going to say, well, this doesn't apply to me, it's for girls. Stop being a matchstick boy. And in this series, we're going to be looking at other stories that are similar. And I think I have several African type stories lined up, because remember the ones we looked at before were more Eurocentric. So I did a little bit more research to find the Afrocentric ones. And again, the reason why we're looking at this globally is because this is not just a localized phenomenon. It is not just a localized culture. People from different cultures, different ethnicities, different backgrounds can identify with the story. Okay. Any questions? If you enjoyed today's story and analysis, let's have your oh yeah in the comment section. If you enjoyed today's story, I will try to put a summary on TikTok. I think TikTok allows you to make a 10-minute video or something like that. So I will try to put, oh, thank you for the rose, Aria. I'll try to put a summary of the Matchstick Girl on TikTok. And then when I have that summary, I will also post it on YouTube. If you enjoyed today's class on this story, let's have your oh yeah in the comment section. Thank you for the rose, Aria. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And if you're just joining the full you can catch the replay of today's class on YT, okay? Thank you, Michi M. Thank you, sweet mommy. You can catch a replay there. Thank you, Stephanie. If you enjoyed today's class, let's have your oh yeah. Did you learn anything? If you did, let's have your oh yeah. Thank you, Audra. Remember again, we do have the grief ritual for next Wednesday. If you are interested, please sign up. I posted it on TikTok, the community page on YT, and on Patreon. And it has all the information you need to sign up for it and secure your seat. Thank you, Kiona. Thank you, MacDad. Oh, you're saying hi, you missed the live. Well, you can catch a replay later. We'll have a grief ritual. Remember, this is not a class. The grief ritual next Wednesday will not be a class. It's a ritual. If you're attending, make sure you have your camera and microphone working and on. No recording will be made. No recording allowed. Once you're successfully registered, I will send you a list of what you need to get for it. Small list. You don't have to get a lot of things. What you will have, you will participate in the ritual. It is not a class, it's not a lecture, it's not a presentation, it's not a teaching. Okay, so it looks like out of all the people who were in class, a few only a few people enjoyed the class. I'm only getting what a handful of people saying, oh yay, they enjoyed the class. That is so wrong. McDad, what's the time of next live? I don't know. I do it according to the energy I have. I'll try to do another one tomorrow. Since you asked so nicely, I do have a meeting, a work meeting at noon tomorrow. And then after that, I could probably do another one around 2 o'clock tomorrow, if not earlier. And I'm also fasting along with Ramadan and Lent. So I'm trying to conserve my energy. Okay. So if you have grief that you need to let go of, any kind of grief, it doesn't have to be someone just passing, any kind of grief, I invite you to join us for this ritual next Wednesday at 1 p.m. CST. Any kind of grief. And the ritual should last about an hour and a half, because it's going to be intensive. So we're thankful to our Creator, our guardian spirits, our ancestors, and our spirit guides for today's forbidden fruit and for today's awakening. May it not be wasted in our lives. May we be given the courage and the support we need to start reclaiming the authority, the spiritual authority in our lives, and to stop giving it away to others. Ashe, Ise, Imagu, Koza, Lasedi, Makwande, Ayabobo. Nyanho, it is done, it is finished, it is complete. Amen. Amen. Ma'at. Obrigado. Thank you for coming to class. Love you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. So TikTok is not letting me leave. It's had this thing on my screen. I don't know. I know it wanted to do something, but it's not letting me leave. There's a big screen, a stalled screen. I think there's like a whole bunch of drama going on with TikTok, truth be told. And sweet mommy, yes, I've seen your message. I'll I'll respond to you, okay?